All right, listen. It's that time of year where our programming says consume romance, okay? Whether it's in the books or the movies or the music. And you know what? We're going to play along by covering a couple of our favorite love-struck artists. Today on Commotion, we're talking about the new Drake album and the new Bridget Jones. I'm Rad Simonpillai, sitting in for Elamin Abdel Mahmoud, and this is Commotion. So, there's one artist we all know could use a little bit of love this Valentine season, and that ache in his heart sounds a bit like this.
I just wanna ball out. Shorty right here crying in the middle of Chanel. All those tears of joy from your eyes, I can't tell. She say things I do for her, I did for someone else. I'm just trying to help, make me feel bad about myself. Like my love language ain't felt down. I just wanna ride with you. I just wanna ride.
That's Crying in Chanel from Drake. It's off his latest collab album with PartyNextDoor, which is called Some Sexy Songs for You. So, to talk about Drake's return to his Loverboy era, we have Mastermind, Hanna Flint, and Jackson Weaver. Hello, my Valentines.
Hello.
Ooh.
So kind.
Listen, getting into the mood. Mastermind. Look, this is an interesting time for this new album to land, given what's been going on with Drake lately. I mean, we're talking about, this beef with Kendrick, Drake's defamation lawsuit against Universal Music, Kendrick's big Grammy wins for Not Like Us, and of course, the Super Bowl performance. How does all that affect your experience listening to this album?
Listen, I take Drake's albums for what they are, and this is obviously a collab with him and PartyNextDoor, and they've made a bunch of great records in the past. And so I think for fans of Drake and or PartyNextDoor, they're going to be happy with it. Anybody who already has a conceived judgment against Drake, they don't like him already, or maybe they don't like him anymore because of what happened in the last 6 to 8 months, they're going to roll their eyes and then have their same opinion. What I realized with the whole beef is that there's a lot of lack of real judgment or impartial judgment when it comes to rappers. Like, if you don't like Kendrick, you can't really say, honestly, if he did something good or bad. And I think the same applies with Drake. So I think he went into his wheelhouse and they concocted something that's for his fan base, but he also gives us some rapidy raps on this as well. So there's that.
Was there any standout tracks for you on this?
I let the internet do a lot of the heavy lifting for me, so I don't wake up and start listening to it first. I'll go and see what everybody else is gravitating towards, and it looks like "Give Me a Hug" is the one that a lot of people are talking about. And that is one of the rapidy rap records, interestingly enough. And he does, throughout the album, there's little references here and there to certain things. There was a song, actually, I just saw someone reference that he says the lines, "Not Like Us"
on Celibacy. On Celibacy,
okay, so there it is. And, he doesn't say anything specific. Everything is usually a subliminal. But I went through the album, and there's some interesting because, on a song like "Meet Your Padre," where he kind of goes into
Hannah's like, yeah.
So, they do some, Nokia is another one that people are talking about. And from what I was told, the record label said that the single is "Somebody Loves Me." That's the focus track, interestingly enough, where, they teased that "Crying in Chanel" kind of was going to be the focus track, and I guess they shifted. But we let the fan base say what songs they like, and we go from there.
Okay, well, let's listen to one of the songs you mentioned there, "Give Me a Hug," from Drake.
Yeah, Drake elimination, fake intimidation. Take a minute, take a deep breath, have a little bit of patience. Drizzy, you
That's "Give Me a Hug" from Drake's new album with PartyNextDoor. Their album's called "Some Sexy Songs for You." Jackson, when I listen to this album, I mean, it sounds like a guy feeling betrayed by a girlfriend, but maybe that girlfriend's hip hop, or maybe that girlfriend's his friends, or maybe that girlfriend is Toronto even. So, I mean, you talk to me. What did you think about this album?
Yeah, I don't know if Drake is breaking up with Toronto or not, but I mean, this is almost as sad as The Weeknd. I don't know what's gone wrong in Toronto this past couple of weeks. All our musicians are like crying into their albums, but I mean, I think what we have already raised is how you have to kind of interpret this album for better or worse. And I think worse in Drake's favor as a response to Kendrick for all of the rapidy rap, for all of the flow, for all of the double entendres, for all of the beat switch ups. We're picking this apart to see, oh, was this a reference to Kendrick? He says, damn, here. Was that a reference to Damn by Kendrick? And like, Not Like Us. Oh, he's talking about Not Like Us. Oh, like, oh, they're waiting for him to fall. This must be like, so everything is not necessarily the lyricism as it stands on its own. It is being swallowed up into this conversation, which is not necessarily very strange for rap or even music. I mean, Alamin's not here today, but I know he's always going through the secrets of Taylor Swift's lyrics to see what's behind them. But this is really, and I think this is part of the defamation suit that Drake has about how this is overshadowing everything about Drake. This beef, it's got to totemic levels where we cannot even listen to a little Finding Nemo reference without thinking, how does this fit into the Kendrick and Drake beef?
Drake got lost. No, and I hear what you're saying, but when he has also on the song, the track before "Give Me a Hug," when he's talking about like, oh, everyone's talking me to leave the beef, but I'm gone vegan, and so like, you know, it's like yeah, he's talking to it. But Hanna,
he's talking to it, but in small ways,
right,
ways
exactly.
throughout.
Yeah, Hanna. I mean, this was supposed to be a return to sexy Drake. Okay, like it's right there in the title of the album. Some sexy songs for you. Is there a way to enjoy what's sexy about this album outside of all this drama we're talking about?
Well, I just want to say, I don't really care about the beef. It really is. I'm totally uninterested. You know what? They're all very rich people.
They're gonna be fine.
You're fine. Yeah. You're gonna be fine. So actually, when I go into it, listen to this album, I'm not listening out for any of that sort of stuff. I actually didn't even like "Give Me a Hug" that much. I feel like there was a good beat change switch, but then it kind of kept on trying to change. It was like a chameleon, and I just felt like, pick a lane, dude. Give me one thing. I just didn't work for me. But Meet Your Padre, what I like, because I think the kind of Drake stuff that I was into, I really like the More Life mixtape. And I guess that's because there's a lot of like British artists on it, Gig, Skepta, Georgia Smith, Sampha. But I like the earlier stuff because there's a playfulness, there's a cheekiness. I think that's what I like about Drake's earlier stuff. So Meet Your Padre, that's something cheeky. It's like fun. And actually, for some reason, am I wrong? But does anyone else hear like Temperature, Sean Paul's, like the bass, like the drum beat? That's in the background. I could hear it. I was like, oh, is that anyway? I like Nokia. I like Die Trying. But actually, I found some of them. If this is supposed to be a sexy album, God, give your girlfriend with a tattoo on her neck a break. Because it's just really, really neggy. And I think people think that just by rapping about sex, that automatically makes it sexy. And I just found it really uncomfortable. Also, please, can we retire like HOE? Because it belongs to us. Right. Women can call it. We can do that. It's our world. Like there's certain words I'm like, you don't get that anymore. That's ours for us to call ourselves. So that's my view. So sexy, kind of sexless for me.
Kind of sad in sex.
Yeah.
Sad sex.
Also, the first 10, I was like really bored. When Meet Your Padre came out, that was a real shift for me. I was like, oh, I can actually feel like something new, fresh. The other one's just, when you kind of like music, it kind of felt like that, like elevator sort of stuff, where I'm not really into that very low level sort of like mumbling, sort of rapping. I'm not into that. I need to be uplifted. I need like a melody. I need a hook. I need that sort of thing. So
yeah. Well, look, Mastermind, I can't look at the album cover here without thinking about like, okay, what's Drake doing out in Mississauga? And which, for those who don't know, Mississauga is the neighboring city just outside of Toronto. And it makes me think about like, this is a guy. And by the way, we know it's Mississauga because the background of the album cover is what we call the Marilyn Monroe Towers. So that's where he is. And it's interesting to me to think about like, on his earlier album, Views, Drake is sitting at the top of the CN Tower. And in this new album opens with a track called CN Tower, where he's very in his feelings, while the album cover has him standing down at the foot of the Mississauga Marilyn Monroe Towers. What do you think he's trying to express with that?
Listen, Drake has always been about Toronto, right? So when you think about the different references, CN Tower, Marilyn Monroe Towers, it's never been him hiding where he's from. or not celebrating where he's from. Every concert, he's like, I'm a kid from Toronto, the greatest city in the world, rah, rah, Ray. It would be silly. And I think a lot of the criticism that he did get was, like take, God's Plan, for example, where he went outside of Canada to go give away all this money and stuff. He got a lot of flack for that because he is talking about Canada. So it's a no-win situation, because on one hand, it's like you celebrate the things from here, and then we have people criticize, why is he standing in front of these towers in Mississauga? Kid's from Toronto. He rapped about Mississauga so many times before. And, Party is from Mississauga. So it just makes sense being a collab album. And those towers are kind of the Mississauga, trademark, if you will, right? Like it's either that or Square One, pick one. So Hanna, Square One is a big mall, one of the biggest malls in Mississauga. Just to give you some reference, but it's a no-win. It's a no-win situation, right? So it's like he is such a huge artist. Earlier we were talking about dissecting stuff. Everything is going to be dissected. The one thing that we know for a fact is it doesn't matter what Drake does, whether it's a tweet, whether it's something at a concert, whether it's an album, it is a moment and everybody pays attention. I think that's why the beef became as big as it was, because, if Kendrick decided he wanted to battle whoever, Cash Cobain, I don't think anybody would have cared, right? So that's what it is. It's Drake is the nucleus of all of this, in my humble opinion, anyway.
Well, let me ask you real quick then. Like, are you going to be listening to this album for the rest of this weekend?
Well, I'm not into the kind of sexy stuff. That's not really my lane. What I will say is my daughter grew up on Drake. Her preteens were with Drake. She's met him a bunch of times, and now she's about to turn 26. And so she's lived her life as a Drake fan. And I'm waiting to speak to her and find out what her take on the album is. But the songs that I do like I am a rappity rap Drake fan. So I'm going to listen to the rappity rap songs. And as a music programmer, I'm going to listen because I need to see which songs are going to resonate, I guess, with potential airplay.
Right. All right, look, we got to switch gears right now because we want to talk about another person who's returning to their certified lover era.
Bridget, you're a widow with 2 wonderful children. My advice to you is put your own oxygen mask on first. You just have to get laid.
That's a bit of the trailer for the 4th Bridget Jones movie. It's called Bridget Jones, Mad About the Boy. It's streaming this weekend on Amazon Prime Video here in Canada. Hanna, just fill us in. What do we need to know about the plot of this latest Bridget Jones movie?
Well, sorry to rain on everyone's parade, but they flipping killed Mark Darcy, didn't they? Sad. That's. I feel like that's everyone knows that from the trailer. Yeah, but everyone knows it from the trailer, and I mean, it's kind of like she's cheating on him with this young toy boy. Not my Bridget, not my Bridget. It's so it's 4 years after Mark's died. She's got her 2 kids. She's living on her own, and I guess it's just about her kind of coming back to life. Not just in relationships, but also in her career, finding purpose again. And, what's so great about, I think, I wasn't necessarily great on the Edge of Reason or the Bridget Jones' Baby, which a few years ago. I think what's really good about this one, and I think part of that is down to Abby Morgan, who's kind of wrote it. It's this idea of where is Bridget now after everything that she's been through versus the Bridget Jones that we met in 2001. You really understand the kind of the pathos, the pain of grief, how you stay out of your children, and also the kind of the trauma of trying to get back into dating when you've been out of practice and you lost the love of your life. It's a whole different ball game. I mean, I'm 36. It's crazy. I was spent Christmas as single with my parents. I was like, am I Bridget Jones now? I've become her. So I think I have such an affection for her. And I think with this film, I'm not always about sequels. I just find them give me one story. But if they were going to do it, this is actually a pretty good way of doing it.
Okay. Well, Mastermind, I cackled out loud when I found out that you watched your first Bridget Jones movie because of us. Okay. Right. So talk to me about this. Talk to me about your experience.
So a quarter century's gone by and I've never watched a single Bridget Jones. It's actually funny. I only thought there was 2 previous movies. I found out there were 3. Now, would I have watched this movie had we not been doing this? And, whatever, maybe if I was looking for something and, it's streaming in Canada, maybe I would have watched it. Probably not, because I never watched the other ones. But what I will say is I am a rom-com fan, and this checks all the boxes. It's a really good movie. I think my wife and her friends would enjoy it. I think it's right in their wheelhouse from an age standpoint and whatnot, and a lot of relatable things. And it makes you feel good. You do the happy crying. You do all of those things, and it's a well done movie. Will I go back and watch the previous three? Probably not.
What?
But
You're not going to get the bootlegs?
There's no rapidy raps in Bridget Jones, y'all.
There's no rapidy raps. But what I will say is I do recommend it. If you want to enjoy a movie, whether it's a date night or just sitting on the couch with your significant other, it's going to be an enjoyable movie.
Right.
And I like the cast was great. There was a lot of great people in the movie.
Oh my God, Hugh Grant, Emma Stone, the list just goes on. She would tell Ejiofor as one of the new love interests. Listen, Jackson, this is a year where we're not seeing as many traditional rom-coms as we used to, right? And latching on to Mastermind's a fan of rom-coms, so am I. But instead, this year, we're getting a lot of Valentine-themed movies that are actually just violent, okay? There's Hard Eyes, which is a romantic slasher movie, and Love Hurts, which is this brutal action movie. Where do you feel... Yeah. Both of them, by the way, having people being impaled by straws, okay? So where do you feel this Bridget Jones movie fits into the rom-com pantheon?
I mean, one thing that we're definitely seeing just as a genre switch is that horror and usually sidelining, alienating sort of genre spaces are now the totemic genre by which we mark what is interesting and what we should watch and listen to. So if you need to have something like that to get seen oftentimes, but I will say this is a really strong story that I love, but it's not necessarily incredibly new. Hanna, you are much more lucky than us in that you get to watch Am I Being Unreasonable with Daisy May Cooper about an older woman who's grieving the passing of her partner and trying to raise her kids. Almost the same thing as Bridget Jones, Mad About the Boy, and it's phenomenal. I love it so much. Never got released here. We did get an older movie, an original Elliot Page movie, Love That Boy, where he falls in love with a 15-year-old. That's kind of similar in some weird ways, but when we look at those movies, those rom-coms, those simple, straightforward movies, they are kind of the past, the Miramaxy past, where you can just tell a simple story. Now you got to switch it. You got to flip it on its head. In some ways, you need the substance there to get a headline to talk about. So I'm not necessarily a huge rom-com fan myself, but they maybe are a little bit of a dying breed in a way. This is not something that's necessarily as huge on the headlines as it once was.
Jackson, when you say Miramax Plus, I'm like, is he talking about The English Patient or Pulp Fiction? What are we talking about? But Hanna, I gotta talk about the way British Jones, I'm saying it right. Bridget Jones seems to be this sort of British institution. So much so that this movie is out in theaters in the UK. Meanwhile, those of us in North America, we can only stream it. Big difference in terms of how they're engaging the audiences on either side of the Atlantic. So what is it about Bridget Jones that makes her so beloved in the UK?
Well, I think we also think about the timing of when it came out and also how Renee Zellweger, the media focus on the way she looked. There was something about what I think is interesting about Bridget that she had to gain weight for it. And it's crazy because she's like, oh, I'm 136 pounds. I'm 136 pounds. And it's like, I'm hardly chubby. But it's this thing where the way she was, this kind of presented, there's that whole thing in the film, you can relate to Bridget in that she isn't that big, and yet she's made to feel like there's that brutal cutting line where she discovers that, sorry, spoilers, Mastermind, but you're not going to watch it, so, but there's a brutal line. She finds out Cleaver's cheating on her, and the woman he's cheating on with goes, I thought you said she was thin, and it was like, dagger to the heart of every woman watching. And I think it's like she's just a messy person. She's not trying to change the world in that way. She's just trying to get by every day. And I think we can all just relate to that. And especially as it comes, later on in life, it's just, I just want to live a good life. I want to put out positivity. I want to look after the people I love. And then I also think, even though Renee Zellweger, who is obviously a Texan, I believe, I think she's from Texas. But, she doesn't do bad with the accent. I mean, you can go typical kind of posh girl accent and you're kind of sorted. There's like two accents Americans can do, posh or Cockney, and they don't really get Cockney that right. But I think it's also surrounding themselves with, purely British kind of talent. Colin Firth, Hugh Grant, there's famous faces in there that we're seeing, and especially as it kind of carried on. And this one, I love that it got Chiwetel Ejiofor, who never gets to play this sort of like, I don't know, he's like more Darcy than I think Darcy Colin Firth was in the character, and he feels like a more of a Darcy. But yeah, I just think that when you surround yourself with such comedy geniuses in the supporting cast, and I love that British has so many friends. You know, even from the other movies, it's, you know, when you watch rom-coms, they've got one friend. It's like, I don't believe it. We've got several friends, so it's a real community. And I think that's it. She just represents, she's not the girl next door. She's the girl down the road. And I think we love her for it.
Amazing. All right, so we're going to set the lovers aside now, because I do want to talk about this one last story. Jack White recently posted about how he's not a fan of fans demanding longer concerts, okay? He said, and I'm going to quote him, "We're living in a current era where people like to say so-and-so played for 3 hours last night and brag about it the next day." And then he went on to say, like, hey, I have no intention of impressing my fans this way, okay? So Jackson, like, I understand you're maybe a fan of what Jack White is saying. Where do you stand on long concerts?
Yeah, I mean, the worst concert I ever went to was the U2 360 tour, Black Eyed Peas opening. Got there an hour early, an hour delay because of some tech issue. Black Eyed Peas go on for an hour. They go away for an hour. We wait like 20 more minutes as they set up this whole stupid stage. U2 comes on, plays for 2 stupid hours. They leave. Encore, 5 encores, one of which has a crane. So they obviously planned that ahead of time. I go home after like, I don't know, 8 hours or whatever, wanting to die. The best concert I ever went to, Explosion in the Sky. If you've seen the movie Friday Night Lights, they do all the like guitar music and that. They came on, had an opener, went on 50 minutes, went off. Everyone's like, encore. The place is so loud. One guy comes back on stage, he's like, "You guys had a good time?" Everyone's like, "Yeah." And they're like, "You like the songs we played?" "Yeah." It's like, "Well, we didn't rehearse anything else, and if you want us to play more, it'll just ruin it, so we're gonna leave. Goodbye." And they walked off stage, and we all filed out quietly. And I was like, thank you. I do not want to pay to be bored. I want 50 great minutes, and I want to listen to this music, and then I want to go home, and if I want more, I can put a CD or Apple Music on or whatever. Long concerts are the worst trend, and I'm glad that I can say that on this show.
Well, Hanna, are you on board with what Jackson's saying here? Or like, well, if you had a different experience with longer shows?
Sorry, I just need to go back to Jackson, like talking about this, and it's in my head. It's like, did someone like handcuff you to like a rail that you couldn't leave after 50 minutes? You couldn't leave?
At U2, it was all floor in BC Place in Vancouver, and we were packed standing, and there was like 1,000 people behind me, and I was there with friends, and they didn't want to leave, and I could not make my way through the crowd, and I paid money, so I felt like I had to stay for the whole show, but I just want you to give me what I want, and now I probably would have left early. I have left early at concerts now, because I'm not staying more than an hour and a half, 2 hours. I'm done. I'm so done.
So Hanna, I got 30 seconds for you to like chime in on this.
Me?
Oh yeah, you.
Oh, Mastermind. Oh yeah, no, I was gonna say I just think like I don't mind a show. I saw Bruce Springsteen, saw him at Wembley Stadium. I spent £175 ticket, and I got so much bang for my buck because it was such an amazing experience, such a good show. Bruce, he does it so well. But I'm also like, you know, if you're gonna give me an hour-long show and you do actually a really good thing, but it's about the ticket price as well. Like I don't want to spend like 175 quid to get 20 minutes.
Well, how long did Bruce Springsteen play?
And that was like 3.5 hours, right? And it was really great. But I'm saying, I think a lot of these tickets, I think it's a lot of it about people want more time because they're spending so much on tickets. And that's not necessarily the artist, that's the issue. Because Ticketmaster and all these different places where you're buying them, the markup prices on these things make it really hard. So I really get what people are saying, but ultimately, you're the artist. Do what the hell you want.
Yeah. Okay. Let's go after the Live Nation, not the long concerts.
So Mastermind,
ticket prices.
Can you in 10 seconds, do you have a thought you want to chime in on that?
It really comes down between big concert versus intimate, right? Because if I'm in an intimate spot with only 250 people, I feel really exclusive. And if they do a 30-minute set, nobody else got to see that. It was great. If I'm in Rogers Center and I'm spending $300, I better get at least 60 minutes. You know what I mean? So I'm kind of in the middle. I'm never standing anywhere for anybody for 7 hours. Jackson, you're crazy. I'm pushing my way through, shoulders out, elbows out, and I'm leaving. But
all right,
again,
I got to cut this off before we turn into a 3-hour concert. But so thank you. We got to leave it there. Thank you all so much for being here with me.
Thanks a lot.
Hanna Flint is a film critic in London, England, and an author of the book Strong Female Character. Mastermind is a program director at Toronto's Vibe 105 FM. And Jackson Weaver is a reporter with CBC Entertainment. That's it for our show. Thank you for being here.